Here's some thermal improvement for this HP 255 G8 laptop. I lift up the motherboard and I cut the plastic between the motherboard and the keyboard so that I can put some thermal pads in between. This was done behind the CPU and behind the VRM section of the motherboard. I used these white dots here as reference points. They reference these small bumps on the metal. On this area here I kept the plastic, but here the plastic went off, so I had to put some thermal adhesive, thermal tape to insulate the surface. And all of this is thermal pads. These are 1.5 millimeters. I spaced a little bit to make sure that the pressure actually can squeeze them to the right sides, basically. On this central point here I had to put a slightly taller one, which I had to cut from a 3 millimeters one into around 2 millimeters. You can do better if you have a proper 2 millimeter pad. As you can see from the screw hole here, the distance between the motherboard and the keyboard support is minimal on this machine. So you have to be very careful with the cuts and everything to avoid shorts. This one, for example, here is the one you see down there, and you can see that I put some thermal pads on the right side of the bump to insulate those two small components, ICs, on the motherboard. You can also see that I only needed to disconnect those two cables from the whole motherboard and another speaker cable on the right here. I didn't want to take out all the other cables on the other side. I'm also putting some thermal pads here under the heat spreader, even though the top surface is just plastic. I'm now making some dual component glue to increase the stiffness, not the stiffness, but like the rigidity, the structural integrity of the hinges, because those machines have awful hinges. I placed 3 thermal pads on the heat pipe. These are gonna be pressed by the top, bottom cover actually. So how did the machine improve after the modification? Not much. The system is limited at 15 watts long power limit, and the fan are still ramping up a lot for this kind of low temperatures, because I was previously having the fan at 80, like the system was reaching 85 degrees, 83, 84 degrees actually when running Cinebench R15, and the fan would spin like loud, would be noticeable. And I had already run another Cinebench test and it's basically doing the same noise, so maybe the fan is also spinning based on the power consumption. I don't know. For sure the system is very slow at ramping up and down the fan, so that could explain why we were eating 83 degrees before and now we're eating only 72 maximum. Here it is. I started to spin. I was getting the same score between 1300, 1200 and 1400 if I run from cold. So that gives me a couple of seconds of 30 watt power limit before falling back to 15. So it's not huge, because the machine was not thermal throttling before, and we gained around 11 degrees and a little bit quieter system when not doing anything. So yeah, those improvements, but they're not huge. This machine will just be power limited most of the time. The VRMs are also better cooled, so this is gonna maybe improve efficiency a little bit, but I didn't have time to really set up a proper test environment before and after, which would imply running at high priority, make sure that there's nothing in background happening, because that kind of improvement is super tiny. It's a couple of percentage of points at most, because VRM efficiency is a thing, but it's not huge in this, especially in this range. So not something that is easy to measure. It's just a bit of quality of life and maybe endurance, maybe long-term preservation improvement on this kind of machine with a 15 watt power limit. And yeah, I guess that's all for the videos. Very nice score. Ciao!